Hi everyone, welcome to another of our midweek devotions. This week I am interviewing Kay, who was baptised on Sunday. We're recording this on the Thursday before she was baptised, and it's an opportunity for us to get to know Kay a little bit better. So Kay, first, would you mind just telling us a little bit about where you grew up, your family, those kind of things?
I was born in Portsmouth to naval parents. I lived with my grandma for a couple of years with my mum, and then my mum, when the divorce settlement came through, she had a shop in Worsborough, and we lived over the shop. And all my life, up till having my own family and things, it was just me and my mum. So, because my mother never bothered.
Yeah.
After divorce, she couldn't be bothered.
Yeah. And how many children have you got?
Just one. Just one daughter. So Stephanie, she's gorgeous. And I've got two grandchildren, one who was 7 the other day, and a 4-year-old little girl.
Lovely.
Paisley.
And you're married to Fred?
Mm-hmm.
When did you get married?
We've been together at the end of this month for 8 years, and we've been married December the 29th at 8 years, because we got married pretty quickly. I moved in with him 3 days, and he said, "Will you marry me?" And I went, "Give me a chance." So that was,
8 years.
Yeah.
And you're a driving instructor?
From my sins.
How long have you been doing that?
18 years.
18 years?
Yeah, 18 years this time, yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
It's a love-hate relationship. When I have days like yesterday, I'll get out of the car and think, why do I do this job?
Was that when you were teaching Curtis?
No, that's not fair. Curtis wasn't on yesterday.
And what else do you enjoy? What are some of your hobbies?
I paint, I draw. I went to University of Art. I did foundation, I did graphic design and that kind of stuff. And I moved back down to Portsmouth for a couple of years for me art. And I always wanted to write and illustrate my own stories. But
we've got a few artists at church, haven't we? We've got a few people really good at that.
I think there's something in it. I think it's I don't know. I think the creativeness. I mean, the greatest painter of all is God, isn't he? And I mean, I remember when I first became a Christian, the explosion of the expression that I wanted to do with art. And then I realised I just couldn't do it because it was too big. And so I had to put it to one side and just leave it. And it's I've got a picture in my head that I want to do, but it's not fully formed yet.
Yeah.
So I'll do it.
So watch this space.
Yeah, I'll do it one day.
Yeah.
I'll do it one day.
I wonder, Kay, if you could tell us a little bit about what life was like before you became a Christian. So you've been a Christian now, is it about 18 months?
Yeah. I don't know when the quiz was that you did you did a quiz it was one of the festivals.
Was it Harvest? So
yeah.
Probably like October 2019 was when you first came to something at church.
Yeah. We did a quiz and I just felt so comfortable in this church, and I just sat there and I thought, and there were all these people around, and I just thought, why do I feel so comfortable here? And I said to Fred, I says, shall we come to a service? And he looked at me really gone out, because I'd been a spiritualist for 32 years. And he says, yeah, fine. And we came the Sunday. We came the following Sunday. And when we left the church that following Sunday, we're walking back home, and I felt so peaceful and so calm. And that was the start. And something changed then, because I used to have a serious foul mouth. I used to have every other word with F and all the rest of it. And something was said, and I went to swear, and I couldn't do it. And it grated on me, I thought. So I didn't bother. And that all week, and I never said out to Fred. I never said anything to Fred. And that all week I didn't swear. And then just as we were coming into church the following Sunday, Fred says, have you noticed I hadn't sworn this week? And I says, I hadn't actually noticed. He says, I don't like it anymore. I says, that's really strange, because neither do I. And I ain't really sworn since then. And that was the first notable change. So, but then it sort of, I was
Yeah.
in turmoil for quite a few months, so, because what I'd learnt, or what I thought I'd learnt for 32 years, was still inside.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about that. The Spiritualist Church. What is it? How involved were you?
Spiritualist Church is a church where people go. It's not dark. That's the rub. They go to. There's one at Brearley. There's one at Pitt Street. A platform medium stands up at the front of the church and goes to different people in the congregation. And picks on somebody and tells them things and tells them their aunties, what we call it. I mean, some of them are quite good.
So contacting the dead.
Yeah, contacting dead. And some of them, but a lot of them are, you can take a lot of what they say as a general thing.
Okay.
Like we've all got, most people, they'll say, oh, I've got a minor here. You know, it's like, but I trained as I trained for mediumship for 2 years. And I got my mum involved in it. You'd think it was all the way around, wouldn't you? But it's not. I got my mother involved in it. My mother was an atheist. She was a complete atheist. She didn't believe in anything. My grandma died in her arms, and she couldn't cope with it. But I'd always been interested in it. I'd always felt something. But anyway. So I started going to church, and she got involved, and then she became a platform medium. She used to go around churches and I was at college at the time, and so I didn't get as involved. But I didn't used to go every week. I used to go about once a month, and I used to go to what's called an open circle, and everybody used to sit around, and if you got anything, you'd stand up and give it. And I tended to go up a couple of times in that circle and give what was coming through.
Yeah.
So, which is fair enough. There is another world besides this. This isn't. That's what we call it. But you're not supposed to contact dead. That is God's territory. Somebody who's got a foul mouth like I had. How can I talk to something that's good? You know, it's not. It just no. You're really not supposed to go anywhere near it. You've got to trust God. It's His domain. What happens to the afterlife is His domain, not yours.
Yeah. And so you came to believe that. We'll get on to that.
Mm-hmm.
But so you came to the quiz. You've already said that.
Mm-hmm.
How did you know about the quiz?
It was Sean. We did the. Me and my friends started a litter picking group because the litter in Kendra was getting beyond a joke. In fact, it's even back to where it was before now. It's crazy. But and because of the litter picking group, Sean came to our first meeting. So I met Sean.
Is this the Friends of Kendra
Yes,
group?
it's Friends of Kendra group.
Because you started that, didn't you?
Yeah, with a couple of friends. Yeah. And so we held this meeting in Lavender Court, and Sean came to that, and that's how I met Sean for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
And then and then Sean came. I can't remember 100%. She came up. She came up with the dogs, and we walked around the field. And we were just talking about things in general, and then she just asked me to come to a quiz. Do you have fancy going to a quiz? And that was it. And rest history, as you like to know.
Yeah. So you came to the quiz, and then you started coming on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
You instantly noticed some change.
Definitely.
But when was it that you actually became a Christian? How did that happen?
I think the moment was in December, because we were out litter picking. I'd been to church, and I was still in turmoil. The Bible's an ancient book. And how can you put so much emphasis on such an ancient book in 2021 when we've been out into space and and the science of it, because I've always liked science and that kind of stuff. How can you relate that to today? And I was still in turmoil, still thinking about it. We were little picking it back at, we'd been on the Sunday, I'd been on Sunday to church, and we were little picking in the Central Park, and Kat and Sonia were there, my friends that started it up. And I turned around, they'd vanished. And I'm like, where's them two gone? And they nipped off for a ciggy under, because it started to drizzle a little bit, and they nipped off for a ciggy under kids' thing in the park. And I turned around, and there was a rainbow striking this church. And I looked at it, and I thought, if that ain't a sign, I don't know what else is. And I've never looked back.
So the rainbow in the church was kind of like a significant moment. But what was it that you were hearing about Jesus that was kind of captivating? Or
we were on Revelations, and I think because of the way my brain works, probably because of the art, I'm very pictorial. Revelations just blew me away. And
this vision of Jesus, particularly in chapter 1, isn't there?
And he's and when him coming back and everybody bowing down to him, and the 7 lampstands. There were 7 churches, weren't there?
Yeah.
And the whole imagery of it, it sort of really attracted me, and that's where we were when I first came into it.
An idea of everyone's going to bow down to him. So I need to do it now. I need him.
Yeah, definitely. And it's it just sort of takes over. I remember Pete came. He did the take a look, and he said, "It will." He says it takes over you, what you listen to, what you watch, and I sort of looked at him. I sort of looked at him and thought, really? Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So you also did do take a look. How did you respond when you do session 2 and it kind of talks about the problem in the world, which is our sin?
Yeah. I think that I'd already sort of started to happen because I realised certain things that I was saying and doing. And I've done some lousy stuff in my time, thinking about it. And forgiven for that. How can I be forgiven for talking to the dead for 32 years? You know, and all the rest of it. And
then you came to session 3, the cross.
Yeah. And yeah, you are forgiven.
Yeah.
And it's and you've got to. It's in his hands. You've got to let it go because he's taking that away from you. Yeah. And you're fine. And it's you die with him, and you're born again with him in this life.
So that was kind of end of 2019, wasn't it? Beginning of 2020. Yeah. You were scheduled to be baptised Easter 2020. Right. Obviously, we were in lockdown. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about why you want to be baptised.
Pete said it best the other day. It's an outward sign of an inner change.
Yeah.
So it's he's best at saying stuff like that. Bless him.
So the outward sign of an inner change.
So I know it's. I was also named at the Spiritualist Church. It was sort of my mum pushing a little bit, but I named my daughter, and she says, "You've never been christened or anything like that." Like I said, she was an atheist. She said, "So you ought to be named." And I stood there, and she played hell with me afterwards because she said, "You stood there, you're so embarrassed." I'm like, "Yeah, I was embarrassed. I didn't really want to do it." But it's that's not going to happen on Sunday. That's definitely not going to happen on Sunday. I want to stand there proud because I'm part of God's family now, not of the devil's. So, but yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about how life has changed since you've become a Christian? You mentioned a little bit about your speech, but you also talked about how it's taken over
Kind of
everything.
Everything. There's every part of my life has changed. It's really strange. I mean, I'd have thought, looking back, I thought my life was normal. I thought my life was completely normal. And when people used to wind me up and that kind of thing, I used to go off on one. But now, it's all in his hands, isn't it? So it's just, my and Fred's relationship's completely changed. We very rarely row, but we used to needle each other. Not anymore.
You'd have to tell me the secret.
It's love him first. Put him first.
Absolutely.
It's I think, and it's not. It isn't up to do with age, because as I got older, I was still cantankerous at times.
Yeah.
And but it's just given. I've suffered from depression. I have been through some rubbish in my time. My ex-husband wasn't a nice person, and I've had verbal and physical abuse, and it's different now. So, but I mean, Fred would never do it like that. But everything's, I can't explain it.
So you've talked a bit about change that you've seen in your own life. Tell us a little bit about your kind of daily relationship with God.
I think you put it best I think it was last week, when you looked up, when you said, "God, it's me again. Did it again. Just again." I really related to that. I'm like, when you're doing, there's something inside now. Obviously, the Holy Spirit. It's there's something inside that, if you're on this path now. It's put me on this path. You start to slip off that path. He's like, "Oh, all right, I missed again. You're okay." And that's, I mean, first thing in the morning, I love to read my Bible. I'll wake up a bit early and try and get some Bible time in. It doesn't help when the dog chills sleep when you sat there. He sat there in bed and the dog's trying to. But no, I try and read Bible in the morning. And then if I pray in the morning, and if something happens and I don't get a chance to have that 5 or 10 minutes prayer time, I have days like I had yesterday. I know it just doesn't. I prayed through the day, but I didn't get that morning. I don't know. I didn't get that morning start. I didn't get that morning 10 minutes with God, because everything yesterday just went pear-shaped. And I just didn't get that 10 minutes of peace and calm and tranquility that I know that I like to get. And it is like a battery. It's like charging your battery up and then you can get on with it. And I didn't get that recharge. So yesterday it just went, But having said that, now I'm sat here talking about it. I know why it happened.
You've talked a bit, Kay, about your relationship with God on a daily basis. God also gives us one another, His church. How has the church, God's people, been a blessing to you since you've become a Christian?
I'm an only child, and relationships aren't easy, and I've tended to unclip. So the fact that you've got people around you that are willing to help, and not just in the Bible reading, but help with. I think one of the hardest parts of being a Christian is sort of fighting with sin, and like we've had the WhatsApp groups, and a couple of times I've put on there something that I've been going through. I've done this wrong, I've done that wrong, and it's like Sharon or Helen or Hazel's been really lovely as well. She put some lovely encouragement on there, and it's like, we all do that, don't worry about it. It's just, we'll just try and, just
Oh, we
go
confess
to
it.
Jesus. Yeah,
Yeah,
confess it, go to
that's it.
Jesus,
Yeah.
and it's nothing. I think sometimes with sin you can think there's only you.
Yeah, and remember what I was saying again on Sunday. Like, I think so much of the time we think perfection.
Yeah.
That's what I've got to be. I've got to be perfect. Got to be perfect. It's not perfection. It's direction.
Yeah.
The direction of your life, Kate, has totally changed.
Yeah, it has completely.
There will not be perfection.
No.
But there is a new direction.
But you've got to accept that. And I think a lot of people that think about Christianity, I think some people are put off by the fact that they've got to be perfect. And no, you're not going to be perfect. You're not going to be perfect on here.
Yeah.
On this earth plane, there's no chance. That's not what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's about trying to be better and trying to get better, but it's not about and the church as a whole. It has been difficult because as I've got more and more into it, it's been the WhatsApp groups and it's not been face to face.
Yeah, that must have been hard.
Yeah, it was just I was starting to get to know some of them, and then we all locked down.
Yeah.
So it was quite because I used to love it at the end of the church when you used to have to sit now. You used to sit and have a cup of coffee and biscuit and that kind of thing and chat to people.
Yeah.
And that was really good, and that's been taken away at the moment. But it'll come back. So relationships they're a lot more difficult when they're through a camera than or through a thing. So I think that's
something to look forward to.
Something to look forward to, something to be developed later on, which it's still quite scary because, like I say, I'm not a relationship kind of person. But so
the church has been a blessing in friendship, in loving you, and in helping you understand God's word, and also when you feel the struggle with sin, you've got kind of more mature Christians or Christians have been Christians for a longer time saying, pointing you back to Jesus and reminding you that you're not the only one who's struggling with sin. Kate, tell us a little bit about what you love about Jesus.
His light, his guidance, he's the bridge, he is the path. We've got all these words, haven't we? And none of them are ever good enough for him. He's so. When you see him, when you actually realise, I mean, for me, Jesus was a myth before. I'd heard about him, of course I had, but it was a myth. When you actually realise that he walked on this earth, he lived the purest life anybody can live, and he died for us. It blows your mind, and walking in his life, walking in his footsteps is amazing. It's a work in progress though. I'm only on first run. I'm still,
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You're in the first mile.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm only right at the very beginning.
Yeah.
So it's a long. I mean, I'm 50 on Sunday, on the day that I'm getting baptised.
Fantastic! Happy birthday.
Yeah, but it's such a watershed. It's a watershed moment, if you like, because
watershed when water goes on your head.
Yeah, exactly. And it's because it's. How can I put it? Okay.
It's a sign of that new life.
It is. It is a sign of that new life. Yeah. And for it to happen at the age that I am, it's amazing in itself. I'd like to say thank you very much to St Andrews, all of St Andrews family, particularly Pete, you, Shan, Hazel, Helen, everybody who's accepted me, encouraged me, and and the Fullwood team with the
because you're doing Bible training course, aren't you?
Training. They're lovely. we're all brothers and sisters in Christ, and I'm sort of one of the newer members, and I'm very grateful to all of you for everything that you've done for me and encouraged me and helped me.
Well, it's an absolute privilege, Kate, to have you as part of our church family. We praise God for his saving work in your life. Excited to see you baptised on Sunday, and thank you very much for doing this.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.